Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Cyber Caffeine Chats, where we're taking a complex topic and breaking it down into smaller, easier to understand chunks. Well, in this series, we're talking about all things AI in the context of cybersecurity. We're exploring a variety of different areas around preventative controls, how you can stop attacks against your AI systems and usage. We're looking at detection and response capabilities to assist your SOC teams and assist your security analysts as we're understanding those attacks themselves. And finally, and probably most importantly, we're taking a look at a proactive approach in which you can increase your visibility, reduce your risk, and improve your security posture in this new emerging technology landscape we find ourselves in. Now, before we jump into the serious stuff, we're having a little bit of fun along the way as well. So let's take a look at this month's example of how we can use an AI tool to do something weird and wonderful. And with that, here's me meeting a version of my younger self. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, previously we looked at the concept of prevention. How can we stop those attacks? And we also looked at detection. So if an attack gets through that front door, how can we understand what actually happened? And how do we start to think about responding to this as well? Now, whilst these are important foundational topics, they're all reactive in nature, which means we're waiting for the attack to happen before we're doing something. And in that respect, it's sometimes too late. Now, last month, we started to consider the concept of an AI security blueprint. So if we want to put something really holistic in place with our AI security, what are the different attack surfaces we need to consider to make sure we've covered all the blind spots here? What are some of the different angles and perspectives we need to take to this to ensure that this is full and complete? And today I want to take this a little bit step further and start to talk about proactive security. So how can we be a little bit more strategic and put some proactive practices in place to really complement those reactive foundational controls that we've got as well? So in today's landscape, as security professionals, our life is becoming harder. We're seeing every year more attack surfaces, new areas that we've got to consider to take care of and secure. And within organizations, typically we're having less time, less money, less resources in which to solve these problems as time goes on. So effectively, we're being asked to do more with less. The only way that we can get ahead of the curve and stay competitive in this landscape is looking at this proactive approach, looking at our visibility, what is actually out there, what are our assets and our applications that are in use, understanding risk, and being able to say, hey, if I come into work this week and I've only got time to fix one thing, what's going to have the biggest impact in improving my security posture? So to put an AI angle on this, we can also start to ask ourselves questions like, okay, first of all, from a visibility perspective, what are my users actually using today? What applications have been installed? What Gen AI services are they accessing on the internet? What's the data that's flowing across these apps and these services? So have I got sensitive PII information leaking out? Have I got malicious threats coming in through these new channels? And we can start to bundle all that sort of stuff into a risk discussion to understand what should I be sanctioning or unsanctioning, and start to put some governance in place with my policies and those foundational controls that we spoke about. So if we want to take a more practical approach to putting this in place, let's take a deeper look and have a look at what this might look like in your environment. Okay, so let's think about what a proactive approach might look like in your environment. Well, first of all, we need to consider the components that are in place. So from a local perspective, there might be some applications installed, whether it's on desktops, on servers. Again, they may be talking to local models if you've got things installed internally. But then if we put a sort of trust barrier between that and the big bad internet, you might also have external models as well. So whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, things like that. And these applications may be talking locally, they may be talking externally. We've got a mixture of both happening at the moment in our environments. So what about the sort of products that we could put in place to start to monitor what's going on and understand some proactive insights? Well, the first place, if we think about this local machine here where the apps are installed, is by putting on an endpoint sensor. So something that's going to be able to pick up all the things that are happening on that particular workload or machine. Secondly, from the model level, we could install a model scanner. So something that's going to go and interact with that and understand, things like vulnerabilities and all the different data that's flowing there. Now, of course, for external models, we don't have control over that because that's outside of our environment. What we could do is put a network gateway in place to start to understand the different data that's flowing there and put a bit of a zero trust secure access model in place here. So what do we effectively get if we've got these different components, we've got these products in place? We can start to build out some security outcomes and effectively goals in which we can collect from this environment. So the first one might be visibility. So from that perspective, understanding, all the different applications, all the different models, different data, what are people actually accessing, who's accessing what are they doing? The second one, once we know that, we can start to identify shadow AI. So applications and different services that we don't know about and potentially risky and introducing threats to the environment. On that same perspective, we can understand our risk as well. So whether it's through these particular applications, through the data that's flowing, through the actual things that they're doing, maybe installing some malicious software and things like that, we can then start to go and layer deeper there. And in terms of taking this to the next step, we can put some governance in place so we can start to decide what is sanctioned, what is unsanctioned, and what sort of policies would I want to build out in those sort of protective controls to stop the bad stuff from happening. The last one that we could consider here is around compliance and particular frameworks that are starting to emerge within the AI ecosystem. So a good example of this, you might have heard of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Have you heard of MITRE Atlas? So this is something that's being built out to understand all the different attack techniques specific to AI itself. This has been around for a while now. And also, what about OWASP? So you've probably heard of the OWASP top 10 for web application attacks. There's also a top 10 specifically for LMs as well. And this is part of a broader Gen AI security project around OWASP as well. So again, starting to understand different components that we've got in place, putting relevant protections and security controls there so that we can get these clear proactive outcomes. Again, it's going to allow us to put this great foundation in place to then build on our policies, build on our governance, and start to move forward strategically into this new world. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that and found some useful insights there. Well, this is actually the penultimate episode of this season, and if you tune in next month, we're going to be covering some of the final areas in AI security. So stay tuned for the next episode of Cyber Caffeine Chats. See you there.